Souls-like games are confidently taking spot of the favorite genre on this channel, and it is for a viable reason. We really love challenges, and especially in the games. So today's guest on the channel is new game that promises a lot, but how much of it is delivered? Let's review the Last Oricru. Before we start, may I ask you to check if you're already our subscriber. If not, please drop a follow. It will really help us a lot. And let's start the review. The Last Oricru is a third-person Souls-like and RPG title. Game's story starts off with a character named Silver, as he awakes with no memories and goes through some combat training. In this short tutorial section on how all of the mechanics of the game work, you'll get to know how the story works, the factions and the combat experience. Our protagonist is a treasure, but if you must know one thing about him, it's that he's dumb. I've seen some pretty stupid protagonists throughout my years of playing. Look no further than Kratos thinking his blades can solve every issue in God of War, Tidus throughout the entirety of Final Fantasy X, and pretty much every horror protagonist ever. The Last Oricru Silver really tested this threshold, and I loved it. His stupid lines, oftentimes with his acknowledging his own lack of intellect, made it actually fun to listen to the story, and although I grew fond of Silver, it deterred and significantly hindered the otherwise merely taxing narrative that the Last Oricru tries to spin. In this war, you have to choose sides between the two warring factions, and you don't often get a lot of information, as both sides are very biased and keep speaking horrors of the other, making it incredibly difficult to make an objective decision. I didn't know who were the bad guys, but I went with the gut. Whether that was right or not was part of the fun, as I sincerely enjoyed not knowing who was the wrong and making decisions based on hearsay from numerous chapters throughout the story. And also, these were a pretty charming choice matter element. Silver's stupid comments, albeit funny, felt severely out of place and dragged the story down heavily. As a satirical title with a funny protagonist, The Last Oricru actually has enjoyable dialogues. But as a story-heavy title with moral choices, not so much. Gameplay-wise, you will experience The Last Oricru either alone or with another player if you decide to explore this bizarre world with a friend. Player 2 will take control of the hologram and will have essentially no choice in any matter in the narrative. As Silver and the other characters enter dialogue, you'll be able to run, jump and attack stuff while you wait for it to run out. Build variety is essentially non-existent. You can't play a tank without having to essentially give up because you can't deal damage. Meanwhile, I run nearly naked throughout the entire game, armed with only my beginner clothes, and obscene amount of points slotted into strength, and a criminally large axe that had lifesteal. After that, I was essentially immortal. I one-shot all enemies, and I could heal myself by chunk at a time, effectively trivializing healing flasks. Bosses were a breeze too, and we wouldn't have died to any if it weren't for the game's shoddy dodging mechanics that felt highly unpolished. NPCs are worse, occasionally T-posing or just not facing the correct direction for conversation. It's almost like Gold Knights tried to ape its better and ended up copying Skyrim to the last point of its bug and editize too. Contextual prompts just felt like a chore to line up, so instead of engaging chapters, I'd end up jumping up and down in front of them a few times. times first. While combat lacks any sort of engrossing appeal, it allows you to simply gleam through fights to the next story beat. Combine that with the impact decisions have on the game and you could easily find yourself pushing through to the end. One selling point is that you can co-op the Last Oricru with another player either via online or split screen. Considering how unpopulated the servers are, the inclusion of couch co-op helps extend the life of this game option. To add, it's probably easier to find a player to play locally with you than it is to find someone online. As a final point, the game does offer ways to level up and improve your gear. It's the standard FR. Use your gather souls to upgrade gear strength and player stats. Unfortunately, these upgrades don't offer much that affect how the game plays, unless of course you intend to suffer through the clunky combat on the harder difficulty. Then just add mindless farming to the mindless combat. The Last Oricru features some cool narrative choice work, putting some true impact on your choices. If you can get on board with the cheeky dialogue and peculiar main chapter, you should be able to overlook the lackadaisical combat. I thank you for watching another video on our channel. I'll see you in the next one.